Okay, we've got a big one here. BBC News excited to devastate it on election night. Here we go.
Minutes away from the first results in a historically close election.
After months of campaigning across the country, it is the final countdown to knowing who will lead the United States for the next 4 years. Come in, and this could be one of the tightest races in modern U.S. history.
The BBC is following this.
This is a campaign that's been incredibly cautious, very disciplined, not the kind of campaign that wanted to say they were confident at all. For every message I've had with them, every conversations I've had with them over the last 3 months, they've been very careful. In the last few days, in the last week, they've sort of abandoned that caution and started to say, we think we have this. So let's see if their confidence is borne out. Exit polling data would be one of the things that we'll look at.
It'll come up multiple times in this video, but Democrats got so confident after that New York City rally.
There's a lot going on. Like, I don't know if you guys know this, but there's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico. Okay, all right.
This is pretty funny here. Check it out.
The Democrats, a lot of the Trump supporters there, again, matching what these preliminary exit polls have been telling us, saying that the top issues for them were immigration and the economy. In particular, they were saying they wanted Donald Trump to close the borders. They were fed up with the U.S. sending what they described as billions of dollars to other countries. They also did suggest that they were...
What they described as billions of dollars to other countries. That is such a funny way to frame that. What happened then? How would you describe it?
And tonight, more help is coming in from the United States. President Biden has approved the largest shipment of weapons to date, worth $3 billion.
And that's why today I'm proud to announce a new $2.4 billion package.
Now, we have some new panellists who are with us now. Celinda Lake, the president of Lake Research Partnership and one of the key pollsters on Biden's 2020 campaign, and Mike Madrid, Republican strategist and co-founder.
She doesn't sound like a pollster in a second here. I mean, maybe she does, but you'll see.
Of the Lincoln Project. Thanks to you both for being with us.
Thank you for having us.
Celinda, polling, your area of expertise, what do you make of what we've seen this year? I mean, everything seems to say it's too close to call as we headed into today.
It's too close to call. Get off the polar coaster.
Anyone who's playing a drinking game just took a shot there, yeah.
And if the pollster tells you ignore the polls, you know you should ignore the polls. Yeah. But a lot will depend on the turnout model, and I think there are surge voters and secret voters on both sides.
With just 4 days left to vote, 4 days, 4 days. A new ad from political nonprofit Vote Common Good is letting women know that it's okay to vote in your own self-interest instead of following the lead of your husbands, conservative husbands, I guess, who are voting for Trump. Watch.
Your turn, honey.
In the one place in America where women still have a right to choose, you can vote any way you want, and no one will ever know.
These are going to be record close races. But I think in the end, the momentum, particularly since the Madison Square Garden event, has been in Harris's direction among Puerto Rican voters, among older women who just think, I can't take 4 years of this, among younger women who have said, I'm going to vote for my rights and control of my body. I think all the momentum is on her side.
Mike mentioning...
I mean, that sounded objective, didn't it? Older women, younger women, vote for this, vote for my rights.
Of Madison Square Garden there, and obviously those jokes that were told not by the former president but by his various warm-up acts. You're very connected with the Latino community. How did that play out?
It was extraordinary. I mean, I think Donald Trump may have done in one horrible rally what Democrats were struggling to do for a couple of years, which was reverse the trend of the Latino vote away from him. And I think it may be decisive, certainly in a state like Pennsylvania.
That aged so poorly. Oh, my gosh.
For months, nonpartisan groups have pushed for Latinos to get out and vote. Today, some new numbers are providing some insight into the turnout among Latino voters and who they voted for. NBC5's V. Nguyen joining us now with a closer look at some of these numbers. V?
Stefan, these numbers are coming from an NBC News exit poll. It was conducted across the country in 10 key states, including Michigan and Wisconsin. The data shows President-elect Donald Trump grew his support among Latino voters compared to 4 years ago.
Mike, I mean, you're the guru on Latino voters in America, and you wrote the great book on it, The Latino Century. And are you suggesting then that the rally in Madison Square Garden and what they may have heard about Puerto Puerto Ricans, even if it didn't come from Donald Trump himself, but came from somebody at that event, that may have changed that dynamic amongst Hispanic voters?
Great question. I'm glad you clearly did read the book.
What about the Latinx community? How did they feel about those statements? That's really what I want to know.
Of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious. By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we finally put that to bed?
Yeah,
we agree?
where did that even
No
go?
more Latinx,
like,
everybody.
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
I actually want to say it's happening because it was not Donald Trump's voice. And that may sound counterintuitive, but a lot of these Latino voters are saying that they see Donald Trump more as of an entertainer. He's not talking about people like us. In America, we've kind of become numb to this kind of vulgarity, this crassness in these.
So he
jokes.
can get away with it, but surrogates can't.
If Donald Trump had said those same things, I think within an hour we would have moved on to something else. It's precisely because we heard other voices.
I mean, that is such grasping at straws. No, it was actually worse because it wasn't him. If it was him, it would have been better. Instead, it's worse because it's some comedian that Donald Trump barely had ever heard of. And you could tell, by the way, at least in my opinion, it did not look like Trump was even aware who Tony Hinchcliffe was before those jokes.
Puerto Rico joke told at Donald Trump's rally has continued to spread like wildfire. The former president was forced to address the situation during a recent interview.
Never saw him, never heard of him, don't want to hear of him. I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things. Now, what they've done is taken somebody that has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with us, said something, and they try and make a big deal. But I don't know who it is. I don't even know who put him in.
The pushback was immediate. Anytime something political tips into pop culture, you know, either good or bad, you've got a really significant development. You had Bad Bunny, you had Jennifer Lopez, you had Ricky Martin, you had Geraldo Rivera, you had on and on and on. People with tens of millions of social media followers.
He's correct about that. There was a big buzz in like popular culture from that rally.
Bad Bunny is opening up about why he endorsed Vice President Kamala Harris in the 2024 presidential election.
Yeah, I know he was a comedian, blah, 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 but that wasn't a stand-up comedy show. It was supposed to be a political rally, something.
Yeah. At Madison Square Garden, he reminded us who he really is and how he really feels. It wasn't just Puerto Ricans that were offended that day. It was every Latino in this country. It was humanity and anyone of decent character.
Can you get more dramatic? Humanity and anyone of decent character was offended by those jokes. Wow.
Right. Is there anything moving under the surface then after, those comments at the Madison Square Garden rally or other things that we've seen?
There were three things that were moving that I think are really important. One is the Latino vote. I mean, we were really seeing serious erosion, including particularly among Latino men, and who felt like, I don't care if he's a racist, just give me my job. I'll make it work for my family.
Is that fair from like someone who's apparently a pollster? I don't care if he's a racist, just give me a job. Is that a fair way to frame like a Latino man what they're thinking? I don't care if he's a racist.
Now it's like, wait a minute, if you call us garbage, them quoting, not me thinking, then you may not and get my job. Older women, the older non-college educated
women. The exact opposite. It was Joe Biden that said that.
Women voting differently than their husbands. They don't want to explain to their kids and their grandkids. I don't care if the president of the United States said that. You can't say that. And people just want to turn the page. They think this is exhausting. I don't want another 4 years.
They want to turn the page. Was that in a poll? Did that show up in a poll? Because that sounds word for word what Tim Walz' wife said. Turn the page. Turn the page.
Turn the page. You didn't like that? Okay, so I need you to be with me and practice with me. What are we gonna do? We're gonna turn the page. Oh, pretty good. Do it again. We're gonna turn the page. And we're gonna turn the page. All right, so I'm gonna be watching you because when I see Wisconsin, and I'm going to watch him nationally on TV because this is a pretty important place.
ABC News is projecting that Donald Trump has won Wisconsin, netting him 10 electoral votes and sending him over the 270 electoral votes needed to secure the White House.
And then I think for Democrats, it was re-energizing. It was like, this is what we knew was going to happen, and we are going to turn out and vote against it.
If Kamala Harris doesn't do as well as you're...
Again, are those in polls? That just, everything so far from the person that's supposedly a pollster just sounds like an opinion, which that's fine, but I don't know if it's exactly set up that way. I guess she can say whatever she wants, but...
Thinking there on that third point about Democrats, will there be some blame laid at the feet of Joe Biden for not stepping aside sooner?
Well, I think it was a very unusual circumstance, and I personally believe Joe Biden was a great president and did a great job.
To be honest, there shouldn't be, because the first month, when it looked like Kamala was definitely going to be the nominee, she did basically no media. So when they say, oh, we didn't have enough time, Kamala didn't have enough time to introduce herself to the American people, she chose not to do that. She could have been out on every show at the beginning, go on Oprah, go on whatever, go on CNN. She just like chilled and raised a bunch of money. So no, it's not. Like Kamala could have been out there way sooner.
Madam Vice President, there's been a lot of questions about when you're going to sit down for your first interview since being the nominee. Do you have any update on that?
I've talked to my team. I want us to get an interview scheduled before the end of the month.
Nobody can use the excuse she never had enough time. Okay, we'll move forward now about 1 hour.
Have to look at where people are turning out in big numbers. So Democrats are excited about what they're seeing in Philadelphia, but I doubt I'm also hearing...
They still won Philadelphia, but not nearly as much as they needed to. Past years, they won Philly by a lot more.
The Vice President of the United States is getting 77% of the vote right now in Philadelphia. They're approaching 70% reporting. All right, you come back in time, the President of the United States was getting over 81% in Philadelphia. Again, this is your biggest basket of votes. The Democratic coalition, this is the foundation. There's no house for Democrats without the foundation of Philadelphia.
So maybe they shouldn't have been that excited about Philadelphia. There was also a very strange ad that was run just before the election.
1776 to 4th and 26th. So go ahead, talk whatever you want, Donald. We're voting soon. And when it comes to freedom, Philly's undefeated.
Cool.
I was at one of the counts earlier. They think they might have sped up the process a bit this year, so perhaps not waiting until Saturday for a result here, but I think we're not going to get it basically in the coming hours. A few clues, though, probably.
It's just funny, like, how do you know? How do I know? How do you know? But maybe just say, we don't know.
BC News can now project that Donald Trump will win in the state of Pennsylvania. 19 electoral votes. Here's where it stands right now. Donald Trump out in front, difference of 188,000 votes.
But we are seeing record turnout in Philadelphia and the Philadelphia suburbs. Jake and I know we won campaigns. Demographics are destiny. And if you have the turnout that you have in Philadelphia and the Philadelphia suburbs, Kamala Harris will be the next Commander-in-Chief of the United States.
Demographics are destiny. I actually didn't even know people still said that. It's kind of a cringe thing, to be honest, to say. If you're watching this and you're not sure what that means, because last time I said it, I saw a few comments. In politics, it basically means more brown people, Democrats are going to do better. Someone might argue that that's not what it means, but when they're talking about presidential politics, that's what they mean. As more the country becomes less white, Democrats, they think will do better. Trump kind of turns that model on its head. He did very well with Hispanic voters, and he's starting to do better and better with African Americans too.
To the Black and Hispanic communities, I want to thank you for the tremendous outpouring of love and trust that you have shown me with your vote. We set records, and I will not forget it.
What does it mean for the Republican Party, though, beyond today's election, when there are some people who've come out so publicly for Kamala Harris?
Well, I think I'd say that's a biased question, but these BBC hosts weren't too bad, at least the hosts themselves, throughout the stream. But notice how nobody else really asked the question, what about all these prominent Democrats going out in support of Trump, like Tulsi, RFK? That question was pretty rare during election season.
Vice President Harris is working with Never Trump officials and groups in an effort to reach out to independent and center-right voters ahead of November's election.
Harris gained her biggest backing of a Republican when former Congresswoman Liz Cheney said she would vote for Harris.
Have you been involved with calling senators who had some concerns about Tulsi Gabbard or RFK?
Yeah, I've gotten great response. And they want to do what's right, and we've had a good response. I think we'll do well. We have great people like this.
The media covered RFK and Tulsi supporting Trump a little bit during the campaign, but it was almost the feeling of, oh, they're just Republicans now. They're not former Democrats. They're just pro-Trump people. But the other way, it's like, oh, why are all these Republicans supporting Kamala? I don't know. I found that, it's not surprising, I guess, but I found it interesting.
Would mean that poll that maybe is an outlier, maybe isn't, from Iowa over the weekend that we saw Ann Seltzer's poll that had...
Maybe.
One got a lot of attention in the last couple of days.
A lot of attention over the weekend.
Because of that Seltzer poll, which showed Harris up 3.
Yep, and she's not. so we can get off the polar coaster, and everybody that was focusing on that can go back to focusing on actual vote count. I mean, that was an outlying poll.
That support for Kamala Harris, that surge there among older women, maybe she was onto something there.
Yeah, I do think it was a trend line. I do think that when you look at the polling, it has been drastically undercounting the women vote ever since the Dobbs decision. You got to get back to fiscal discipline. Donald Trump didn't do it. And I think with Republicans in that cabinet with Kamala Harris, we're going to put our country back on the right fiscal track.
Which has barely been an issue in this whole campaign. I mean, I'm old enough to remember when your position on the deficit was a test of your patriotic bona fides. I mean, this is another model that Donald Trump has broken. He has taken this issue away from the American discourse. I mean, nobody is talking about reducing deficits. No. Kamala Harris will drive up deficits. Donald Trump will drive them up even more. It's just not an issue in America.
Come on. Maybe Trump's biggest surrogate, Elon Musk, can't stop talking about it. He talked about it constantly during the campaign. He probably talked about it to some degree in an annoying way. Not to me, but some people in politics were probably like, enough already, Elon.
How much do you think we can rip out of this wasted $6.5 trillion Harris-Biden budget?
Well, I think we can do at least $2 trillion.
Yeah!
Yes.
$2 trillion.
I mean, at the end of the day, you're being taxed. You're being taxed. All government spending is taxation.
And I have created the brand new Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. Perhaps you've heard of it. Perhaps. Which is headed by Elon Musk, who is in the gallery tonight.
Okay, we'll move forward a little bit more now again in the night. At this point, Trump is doing well. Kamala, not so much.
In my feed, whether I'm on WhatsApp or whether I'm on iMessage, I'm not getting a single Democrat that's feeling confident.
So is this a...
And that's changed it's got more pronounced in the last hour or so, compared to the beginning of the night where I was hearing very positive things from Democrats.
Listen, I'm a proud Democrat, but I was independent most of my life.
Yeah.
Democrats are professional bedwetters. They get nervous. And the reality...
This guy does not want to let it go.
Of it is that we talked about the red mirage. We're seeing it.
Right.
It is the urban centers, the Philadelphia suburbs that are not in. Only 50% of their votes are in. So I'd much rather be a Democrat in Pennsylvania right now.
Then the question is...
Wild. This guy loves it. You see, that's not the end of his optimism.
At the beginning of the night, there were people on the Harris campaign who were suggesting that actually she was going to win more of these 7 battleground states than the polls had suggested.
NBC News projects that Donald Trump will win in Georgia when all the votes are counted.
Well, this is a big one. It's North Carolina, 16 electoral votes go to former President Donald Trump. He has won the state of North Carolina tonight.
Tonight, Arizona has officially been called for Donald Trump. AP making the call this evening, adding 11 electoral votes to the Republican column.
Breaking election news, just in the last 6 hours, President-elect Donald Trump won the state of Nevada.
But now I think everyone on the Harris campaign is thinking we have to hold on to that blue wall.
Right.
And even that is looking shaky.
You're right on the rural counties where Donald Trump has performed better than he did 4 years ago. But in other counties, the blue counties, Lackawanna County specifically, she's higher than where Hillary Clinton was. So it's going to be
one county. Some other networks did this. I'm not saying he's even a network. This is just one guy. One county, dude. One. Like, she's doing pretty well in one county. That means nothing.
Neck and neck. And there's just more of a vote. I mean, they've had historic turnout in the Philadelphia suburbs, which is literally the population center, and it has not gone in. So
there. Patrick, I'll just put that point to you. Christian finished up there, looking like a grim night for Kamala Harris.
No.
No, clear answer.
Listen, I'm not drinking Kool-Aid. This is just water. We have not.
This is now post-Trump winning North Carolina. This guy still all in on Kamala.
No liquor in the studio.
I know that like Patrick Murphy, you think it's something different, but I am telling you, it is patience. And I said this earlier, and we agreed on this, that I said it's all coming down to the blue wall. It's not 7 swing states. It's the 3 in the blue wall, period.
Patience. Patience for what? Just waiting for more negative results? Trying to be all like zen about it? Just patience. Just chill.
Obviously, the Senate has gone to the Republicans, and it may go in even bigger numbers to the Republicans than people had been anticipating.
Yeah, I think in the 3 blue wall states, I think Kamala Harris is up in Michigan. She's up in Wisconsin. She's down by...
Is that true? I don't think she was up at this point in the night in those states. Certainly not in betting markets. Maybe like just in the way the votes came in. I don't know, but I don't know where that information is coming from.
Less than 200,000 votes in Pennsylvania with 82% reporting. So there's still hundreds and hundreds of thousands of votes that need to be counted.
Pennsylvania, NBC News now projects that presidential contest has been won by Donald Trump.
I mean, we saw the Democrats with that heavy ground game, particularly in your state, Patrick, in Pennsylvania, door knocking, rallying the troops, having the volunteers there, versus actually just doing a podcast that's so much more efficient, really, in terms of time and money and how many people you can reach.
Yeah, and listen, I would say that Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have played to win. They have traveled. I was with them yesterday, at least with her. Should she have done other podcasts? Yes, but everyone's going to do this.
AKA, should she have done Joe Rogan? Absolutely. By the way, do you know who else didn't do Joe Rogan? The conservative candidate recently in Canada. Do people think they're too good for Joe Rogan? It doesn't even need to be the name Joe Rogan. He's just the #1 show on earth. Just do his show. What are you thinking? Are you too good for that?
But she had an opportunity to come here when she was in Texas, and I literally gave them an open invitation. I said, anytime. I said, if she's done at 10 o'clock, we'll come back here at 10 o'clock. I go, I'll do it at 9 in the morning. I'll do it at 10 p.m. I'll do it at midnight.
I offered to have that Pierre guy come on the podcast.
Really? He didn't do it. Wouldn't do it. Thought it was too problematic. Or whatever. Jordan told me, I forget what he said, but they were telling him not to do it. Like his advisors were telling him not to do it.
Most people still think that Democrats are going to take the House, but it may not be by as big of a margin.
I am pretty sure that's not true at all. I was checking betting markets throughout the night. At this point in the night, like, again, this is months ago now, I'm pretty sure it was above 90% for the Republicans to take the House. Most people think the Democrats, I don't know where that information is coming from.
Where one of Kamala Harris' campaign's biggest surrogates, Lindy Lee, is standing by for us. Lindy.
They briefly interviewed this woman here. Since then, she's been very critical of the Biden-Harris campaign. I don't know if it's genuine or if it's just her opportunistically trying to flip sides when the tide's going more right. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know in the comments.
I know a lot of people are probably wondering tonight what would have happened had Shapiro been on the ticket. And not only in terms of Pennsylvania, he's famously a moderate. So that would have signaled to the American people that she is not the San Francisco liberal that Trump said she was. I hate to say this, but I'm not sure how much Tim Walz contributed to the ticket.
How do you feel? How does the campaign feel?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. People are getting increasingly anxious. But there's still a pathway. And number 3 is Biden only gave her 107 days to fully introduce her to the American people. That is not sufficient time. She was still telegraphing. She was still introducing herself.
Look, that makes no sense whatsoever. I just talked about this earlier in the video. She did nothing in the first month. Go on shows. That point is like the worst point you could possibly make.
While the Senate has slipped out of Democratic hands, I think the House is still a potential, and there is still a potential for a pathway through the blue wall. So
now the House is a potential, so at least less confidence in the House. I mean, obviously, like the Republicans won the House.
Trover, there was Democrats holding out hope, as you know, up until the last second, probably this last second, that they might have a chance to somehow eke out a small majority. That is not going to be the case.
Interestingly, the first sort of moment where I think they felt something was going their way when the Iowa result came in. Now, Iowa shouldn't have been in doubt for Donald Trump, but there
wasn't in doubt.
There was a poll in the last few days that caused a wobble. There was also a wobble in the Trump campaign about North Carolina, where they spent...
Democrats glommed onto that Iowa poll so hard. It's so funny. It was actually funny back then as well. It's probably even funnier looking back at it.
And the reason those individual pollsters get the gold standard designation is both because of their proven sound methodology, but also because of their track record over time in that particular jurisdiction. And the prototypical example of a gold standard poll is the Iowa poll done by Ann Selzer, by J. Ann Selzer.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. there. He's facing the camera, isn't he? Right in the middle. Of course, he was standing as a candidate in the...
That would have been so fun to be there on that night. Was anyone there? Is anyone that watches my videos, was anyone there at the victory party on November 5th? That would have been so cool.
Election himself and then backed Donald Trump a short time ago, a controversial candidate, controversial character in American politics. But he and Donald Trump been almost inseparable for the last couple of weeks at least.
We should say his last name, Kennedy.
Everyone on the right is controversial. RFK, though, make America healthy again. Let's go.
RFK Jr. outlining his plan to phase out artificial dyes from the U.S. food supply. Don't worry, Jesse, your hair dye's safe. For now.
And that was a moment where he sort of seized the media once again in the way that only he can and dominate the messaging.
He took a negative and turned it into a positive, really. That rally in Madison Square Garden last week. But he managed to turn that around. Joe Biden tried to address it. He made a gaffe out of it and referred to Trump supporters as garbage.
I wasn't going to say anything, but I have breaking news for you, Mr. President. You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage.
The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
And then you saw Donald Trump driving around in a bin truck a few days ago, or garbage truck, as you would say over here. And what we've seen at the rallies over the last few days.
And the rally of him in the high vis is classic.
So this outfit, you know, is when he called us all garbage. How stupid. What a stupid word. That blows deplorable away, don't you think?
He's got to get to 270 electoral college votes. He's not there yet. He's got 246. Kamala Harris has 194. Technically, she could still get there. She could still become president. Nothing is definite, but the indications are that he's moving ever closer to returning to the White House, Sumi.
They are in.
All right, at this point, Fox had already called the election for Donald Trump. So you want to keep, you want to say, oh, things aren't for sure. I guess according to your map, but major networks had already called the race at this point. And also, this was about 5 minutes later.
Well, Sumi, we have a major projection to bring to you now, a really, really huge one. We can project Pennsylvania for Donald Trump.
Let's go!
And here he is at 78 years old, a man that was facing multiple scandals over his career, multiple court cases, criminal and civil, a conviction, a sentencing in 3 weeks.
This guy sounds like a big fan.
Time, escaping death by a fraction from an assassin's bullet. He's overcome multiple scandals over the last 9 years. He's overcome multiple court cases, criminal and civil. He's still got one criminal conviction hanging over him.
You just said all this.
Of course, there was so much noise from that Madison Square Garden. The triumphalism put people off, the racism, the misogyny. It was a real hate fest in many ways. But Donald Trump began it with that simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago?
This guy's on the news saying that? Dude, this isn't like a lefty just session for you to vent. A hate fest, the racism. At least try to be impartial.
He will have a Republican Senate. He will have a Republican House.
Being told that Speaker Johnson is speaking right now. The big, beautiful bill just passed. Stand by.
And make government work more efficiently and effectively for all Americans.
He will have a Supreme Court with a 6-3 conservative majority. Trump will feel very emboldened by that. And I suggest that's a rather worrying thought.
Nick Bryant, thank you. You say you think you've seen this movie.
Pretty fair analysis there. A worrying thought. I wonder if that guy is a liberal or a conservative. It's hard to tell.
What did he get right? I think he managed to speak to and give a sense of speaking for the anger that people feel about the state of their lives, the state of their country. I think he weaponized it in his usual way, not least helped by Elon Musk.
His rocket company is the only reason we can now send American astronauts into space. Come here. Take over, Elon. Just take over.
Hi, everyone. But also by the way that he campaigns, which is a very unique form of campaigning, which I think a lot of people like me, find really distasteful and unpleasant and full of lies and racism and misogyny and so forth. But I think the Democrats have to...
How do you really feel? So many guys love just saying misogyny. Is that just like the ultimate virtue signal for the women watching? Like, oh, he's one of the good ones. He's one of the good white guys. He said the word misogyny.
Because I think this is one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and I'm not sure. Well, I'm pretty sure that the consequences are far from being good. But in terms of how he won,
consequences so far look pretty great to me.
This great transformation has not come from Western interventionists or flying people in beautiful planes giving you lectures on how to live and how to govern your own affairs. No. In the end, the so-called nation builders wrecked far more nations than they built, and the interventionists were intervening in complex societies that they did not even understand themselves. They told you how to do it, but they had no idea how to do it themselves.
But with that said, I'll finish the video. Like and subscribe. Leave a comment. I will see you in the next video.